are unions structured and how do they relate to their members? Well, it all depends on who you ask. Unions have and need to be transitioning to new ways of thinking and operating. The Canadian Union of Skilled Workers is a 21st century member-led union. To understand this model, we need to have a picture of what came before us. So let's look at what makes CUSW different from others. Hello, my name is Janet Stewart and I'm a proud member of the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers. Thanks for joining me for this 21st Century Insight. CUSW is a member-led union. It's different from the top-down style of most other unions. I'm sure you're wondering, why did we take this particular path? In 1999, we decided to build our union for the way people and companies work today and are likely to work in the future, not how they worked in the past. CUSW is a modern union, designed for modern times. And yet, one of the big influences of our development occurred in the 17th century. Now that's a long way back in time. The 17th century marked an exciting pivot point in history. Until then, people had few opportunities and little encouragement to exchange ideas. The beginning of the 20th century marked the beginning of the Enlightenment, an explosion of knowledge. As knowledge spread through society, it changed people's lives for the better. Something else has changed since the 17th century, the means of production. Back then, artisans created and sold products. Glass blowers, leather workers, blacksmiths, watchmakers, weavers, they were skilled craftsmen, and many of them were entrepreneurs. But as people harnessed water and then steam in the late 19th century, the Industrial Revolution got underway. Factories rose up, and as they did, artisans closed their workshops and their children went to work on the production lines instead. Unlike the artisans, factory workers developed a far more distant relationship with the goods that they produce. To employers, labor was one more element to price into the cost of production, the same as copper, iron ore, or cotton that was processed in factories. Workers became just another commodity. By the early 20th century, workers had banded together in unions. They did this to negotiate their market value and to protect themselves from the ills of the workplace. But the workers were still too tied to their machines to be able to run the unions themselves. So the unions developed as separate institutions in parallel to the factories. As a result, the first unions represented specific organizations or occupational groups, and that's the way things stayed for a really long time. Unions caught on throughout the Western world. In the United States, union membership hit a high point in the late 1940s. By then, 48% of U.S. workers belonged to a union, then more upheaval. New manufacturing practices, wider trade, and other major changes began to sweep through the world, and union membership began a long slide. By 2010, union membership in the United States had dropped to only 10%. Of course, another wave of change occurred at the start of the 21st century. About this time, we saw the beginning of the information age. Digital technology sparked another explosion of knowledge. A new kind of worker began to emerge in this environment, one far more connected to the type of work that they perform, the knowledge worker. A knowledge worker is a skilled person who is always learning and applying new knowledge. As a result, employers saw them as an asset, not as a liability, or even worse, a commodity. The emergence of the knowledge worker called for a new kind of union. CUSW is that kind of union. Granted, as members of a union, we are still involved negotiating pay, benefits, and workplace conditions with the employer. But CUSW also focuses on increasing the ways its members can contribute to the success in the workplace and beyond. We believe that a knowledge worker is someone who participates in the operation of their workplace and who acts as a leader in the workplace and in the community. In the 17th century, a great explosion of idea sharing sparked the Enlightenment. The people of the time acted on opportunities to change their world for the better. It's up to us to come together to make the most of our opportunities to do the same in the information age. Thanks for watching this 21st Century Insight. Before you go, take a moment to think about these questions. Do you think unions can contribute to positive change? And if so, what role could you play? Watch the third video in this series to learn the answers. Bye for now.